In this video, we're going to examine the text tool and then how to highlight text and add a border to it using blending options. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go up to File, New, and this is make sure this is pixels 800 by 800, and here you can see something that's not quite right with this. I want this to be RGB, so I'll change that to RGB and click OK. And you'll notice my canvas shows up at 66.7. I'll go down here in this zoom tool and just double click to get it to 100%. The text tool is, it's about a dozen or so tools down. It looks like it is the letter T, and you can right click on that and you can see there's a couple different text tools to use here, and we'll look at primarily this horizontal text tool, and we'll look at the vertical here at the end also. So I'm going to select horizontal text, horizontal type tool, and a couple things to take notice of. First, here is the font, and you can see there are hundreds of different fonts here, and they're all in alphabetical order, and I'm just going to leave it with Birch Standard or Birch STD, and you can see there's also an example of what the font will look like. This is an option that's available for some fonts and not with others. For this one, this style, there's only one Birch style. For some fonts, it'll make a difference. For most, it won't make a whole lot. Here I can set the size of the font. 72 is by no means the largest. You could type in 200 in there and get a larger font. I'm going to type in 45. Here are some more things that you can do to change up the style of your text. Again, these are subtle changes. Subtle meaning not going to make a large difference, but you can see sharp, crisp, smooth, and strong. You can try those out. Here's the color of the font. I'm going to go and change it to red. So I've got Birch, I've got 45, and I've got red. I'm going to go click in the center of my document. And it looks like I have my caps lock key on. I'll get that off. And my daughter and I just finished reading Puff the Magic Dragon, so I'm going to write Puff the Magic Dragon. So here I've written the word puff. I guess I'll zoom in once so you can see that. Now notice when I zoom in, it kind of gets a little grainy. That's because when you get up close to anything, you can see the actual pixels or the little squares that make it up. So if I zoom back out, you can see that it's back to normal. Next, I'm going to use my text tool again, and I'll type the. And I'll notice that after I type something, the cursor is still there, and this throws a lot of people off. The cursor is still there because the text tool is still active. So in order to apply this, or in order to let Photoshop know that you're done with this particular tool, you have to click any tool here on the outside edge, any tool in the toolbar. And I usually go to the top one, the Move tool, and just click it. And watch when I click it, you'll notice that blinking cursor next to the word "the" will disappear. And that makes it a little bit more permanent. Now that I'm on the Move tool, I could go over top of it and move it around. All right, so next I'm going to, why don't I go to my text tool? Why don't I change the font for this one? Change it to something different here. Oh, okay, I had that highlighted. Let's go to Edit and Step Backward. Click on my Move tool. I'm going to go out here somewhere else. Okay, now you see I have some new text showing up. And now I'll change that. And I will change the size of it to say 60. Now let's make it bigger than that. Make it 150. I'll change the color to blue. Okay. I'll type the word magic. Notice that blinking cursor still there, an underline underneath that shows you that the text tool is still active, and it won't let you. Photoshop won't let you perform some operations as long as you have an active tool. So in order to apply that, I just go over here and I click on any of these tools really, and it applies it. It doesn't ask us if we want to apply because this is just the text tool and we're creating it for the first time. So before I type dragon, you want to take notice of something over here. This is the first time we've looked at layers, and Photoshop, think of it as stacking things. So if you put a piece of paper on the floor and then you put another piece of paper on top of that, and you kept on adding sheets of paper, you'd have a stack of papers. And you can move one around, but you usually can't see, unless maybe part of the paper was cut in half. You can't see what's underneath the other ones unless there's nothing there, if that makes sense. And it probably makes is more clear by just taking a look here. Here we have 3 layers right now. If I go up to my Move tool, which will move anything I have, you can see I move the word magic. But if I wanted to move the word puff, I can't just click on puff. I have to actually go over here and make sure puff is the active layer. So I'll click on puff over here. You can see it's highlighted. Now you can see I can highlight puff. If I wanted to make the text puff larger, I would have to have puff highlighted, and I can test it and see it is here. Click on my text tool, and then I have to carefully click on puff, because if I don't carefully click on puff, Photoshop will think I want to create a new layer, and I'll show you how that error is made too. So let's just make the word puff larger. In fact, that's not even large enough. I'm going to type in 100 there, and you can see that I can change text. Now, this is still highlighted. It still has that cursor. I need to apply it. So I'll just click on the Move tool, and now I can move it around. Now, if you notice over here, now if I want to make the word the larger, I have to highlight it, because if I go to see where I'm at, I'm still on puff. If I click on the word magic, highlight that layer, I can move magic around. I want to click on the word the, because I want to make the larger. Now, I'm going to try to make a mistake here. And this is the mistake that when people want to go back and edit, for instance, the word the mistake they sometimes make, they'll click their text tool. Well, first they'll make sure that the is highlighted, and they'll click their text tool. And remember, I said you got to be very careful to go on the word the and click on it. But they might go up here. You see how the cursor changes? It's got a box around it here, and now it doesn't. When it doesn't have that box, I'm going to be able to click on the and edit it. And you can see that I'm there. Now let me just go over here and apply that. But I want to show you what sometimes happens when people make a mistake. I have the word the highlighted, and I say, well, I want to make the larger. So I'm not careful, and I click out here. Well, just notice what's happened. It's created and I wrote new text area. It's created a new text area, and you can see that a new layer has been added over here. So what's the easiest way when this happens to get rid of it? Well, maybe type something as soon as you notice it, and then I'm just going to go over here and apply it. And now I'm just going to right-click on. You see this? Let's just take a quick look. Here's my puff layer, right? Here's my the layer. Here's my magic layer. But in between them, I have this new text area that I really didn't want. I'm just going to right-click on it and go to Delete Layer and say yes, and it'll disappear. Now remember, I wanted to make the larger, so I'll make sure the is active. I can test it. I'll click on my text tool, and then I can click on and highlight the. And maybe I'll make that size 80 now. I can even change the color of it if I want, and I'll go in there and make that, I don't know, a different shade of red. Slightly different shade of red. It almost looks pink. That's okay. All right, now it's still active, remember. I have to go over here and click any tool to apply it, and I like clicking the Move tool. It's the first one, and then it allows me to move it. I'm going to click on Magic and move that up here, and I'm going to go to my text tool, and I'm going to make this size 250. I'm going to change the color to, oops. See, I was editing Magic without knowing it. What I really want to do is click on the text tool and go down here and make a new layer, a new word. And I'm going to make this size 200, I guess. And I'm going to make the font green. Now, another thing to notice about font and text is we don't change the color over here in these color swatches like we're used to. The colors get changed up here in this top horizontal toolbar. So if you're looking over here to change the color of your text and it's not working, this is why. I'll click OK, and I'm ready to go. Oops. And you'll notice the line. If we could look over here, you'll see a blinking cursor. My screen won't go big enough, but I need to click this tool to apply it. And that's just going to fit on the page. Okay. So let's edit step backward to get rid of that. Step backward. And let's just look at the vertical type tool. So I'll click on that. And I'm going to leave my font at 150. I'm going to go back and change it here to, oops, on the wrong layer. So I want to go to my vertical text tool, and I'm going to start here. There we go. Now I've got a new text is about to begin. I'll leave it at 150. I'm going to change the color to green again. And this tool that I just clicked on is the vertical text tool, and you can see what it does. It allows me to type up and down. You know, sometimes you want that effect. Now here's a problem. Problem is that's a little too large to fit on the screen, so I'm going to double click on it and change the size. It's still a little big. There we go. And now it's active. Remember, I'm going to go over here to apply it, and that's how my vertical type tool works. So once once we have text there, we can click on that layer. Remember to move it. We can, if we wanted to change the color of magic, we would go to the horizontal text tool. We would make sure we have magic highlighted over here, and then click right in the middle of it. And if I want to change the color of magic to a shade of green also, I can do that. The mistake that happens when people want to change something is they don't click on it. They click somewhere else, and it ends up, here, I'll do it. It ends up, you can see what just happened here. It ends up creating a new layer. And what do you do at that point? Well, you can go over here and apply it. I'm just going to type a G there so you can see. And then you can just right click on it when that happens and delete the layer. Okay. So let me grab the hold of the word dragon and move that up a little bit. All right, so the last thing to look at today is how to make this text a little more bold, or make it stand out a little bit more by putting a border around it. So I'm going to start with the word puff. So you can see I've highlighted in my layers here. You notice I have 4 layers, right? 4 words, 4 layers. Then I actually have my background layer. Let me click on my background layer and just show you how we can change the color of that. We've done this before. I'll click my background layer. I'll get my paint bucket. Yeah, I don't like that shady yellow. Let me get something a little lighter here. Okay. I'm going to click on the word puff first, and you can see puff is highlighted. Now, this is going to look complicated, how to put a border around this, but it's really not. It's a couple steps, but once you do it a few times, you'll become a pro. So I'm going to right-click using my right mouse button. That's the one we're not used to using as much, but I'm going to right-click on it, and you're going to see this menu come up. Let me do that. Let me do that again here. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to get the option. The second one from the top says blending options. So I'll click on blending options. All right. When I click on blending option, I'm going to do this 4 times. So if you miss it, you can rewind, or you can watch me do it 4 times. I'm going to go all the way down right now for the sake of this, and there's a bunch of different ways we can add style to text. But I'm going to click on stroke. And I'm going to click on the word stroke because I want this word to become blue highlighted. And you can see immediately it has put a black border around the word puff and makes it stand out already a little bit better. I can change this border to be an inside border, which kind of makes things a little smaller, an outside border, or a centered border. In this case, the outside border looks the best. I can change how heavy that is. Depending on the number here, there's 1, the very light. I could make it very large. I'm going to go somewhere in between that and make it like 6 and click OK. And then you'll notice here underneath the word puff, I now have effects and stroke. And if I said, boy, I don't like that black on there, I wanted to make that blue, I could just double click on stroke, go into this color, choose a color blue, and now that border is blue. So let's do it again. I'm going to click on the word the. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to get blending options. This blending option menu will come up. I'm going to go down to the word stroke. Now, a mistake people make is just by clicking this checkbox. In order to get more options, we want to click on the whole word stroke, which will check the box, but it'll bring up this menu. Same menu we had before. I'm going to look at inside, center, and outside. In this case, these are small enough. I'll use outside. I'm going to make that maybe 2. And the nice thing is you can preview what your border is going to look like beforehand. I'm going to click OK. And now you can see underneath the word "the" I have effects and stroke. Now if I want to go back into puff because I don't like that blue background, I can just click on stroke right here underneath the word puff, and I can change that back to black. Okay, so let's do magic and dragon. I'm going to right click on magic and go to blending options. I'll click on stroke. Now let's put a dark green border on this. So there's a dark green. That's not dark enough. Oh, it's almost looking black, isn't it? Now here we'll notice a little bit more. Let's make it like size 10. We change the weight of it. Now here I have an outside border, but let's look at inside. Let's look at center, and then look at outside. I think for this one, inside isn't what we want. Outside's probably the best border for this, and I'll click OK. And remember, I can just click on stroke if I want to change the color of that border. I can do that. I'm going to hit cancel and cancel because I like the green. Let's do dragon, and let's say when I'm going to do dragon here, let's say that I want to make sure I get the same color border that I have on the word magic. Even though dragon's not the same color as the word magic, I want the same color border. So I'll go down and click on stroke. I'll make it size 10. But notice I have black. I'm going to click on the color, and now just watch it. Notice, follow my arrow. If I move my arrow around, I'm going to move out to the canvas. Notice it immediately becomes an eyedropper, and I can select any color out here. I'll select the color of the, watch. You'll see my border change the color of the eyedropper. If I choose the color of the red of puff, it will change it. If I choose the color of the word magic, it will change it. And I want this outside border, so I'm going to click on that to get the same one. And there's that same color. I'm going to click OK and OK again. You'll notice I have 4 layers here. I have effects on each one, and I can go in and change them. I can still go to my move tool, and if I wanted to move the word puff, I can move it. If I wanted to change the size of the word puff, I just click my text tool, make sure I'm over the word puff, and I can change the size of it. Let's say I want to make it real big, and then I can move it around. And you can review any of these ideas: creating text, horizontal, vertical, changing the color, and adding a border by rewinding this video and watching again. And that's a look at the text tool and adding a border to text.